What's up, everybody? So we're out in the shop with another Shop Talk Tuesday, and in this episode we are making a Kydex sheath for this guy right here. This is the knife that we've been working on the previous Shop Talk Tuesdays, and it's about time to make a sheath for this. Now what we're going to be using are two different types of Kydex. So we've got this OD green because it just goes well with the OD green scales. So OD green Kydex with some basket weave Kydex that we have right here that's textured. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to make the main body for the sheath out of this right here, and then we're going to do an overlay with this one right here that actually just adds an extra bit of design to the outside of it. And then we're going to be using an Ulti clip. This is a Slim 3.3. You see it right there. Ulti clip. I really like these. They've got a real strong clipping mechanism, if you want to call it that. Whenever you clip this onto your belt, it stays. And that's what I want for something that I'm going to be, you know, carrying around in the backyard, climbing up on the roof, doing all kinds of different things like that. I want this to stay on my hip. Now, what we're going to be doing is, of course, forming the Kydex to be able to mold around the knife. We're going to be doing a taco style sheath. And whenever we start actually pressing it in the mold, you'll see why it's actually called a taco sheath. But what we need to do now is go ahead and get this formed around the knife. So we're going to be utilizing our oven that we typically temper in. We're going to be turning the temperature down to about 200 degrees, and we're going to be heating the Kydex material in the oven and then putting it in the mold, folding it around the knife, pressing it, letting it cool. So without further ado, let's get into that process. So like I said, we have this turned up to about 200 degrees, and we're going to go ahead and just rest it straight on the little tray inside there. Let it start warming up. Now you want to be mindful of this because if you overheat this, there's no going back. Right now it's got a satin finish on one side and a semi-gloss finish on the other side. If you overheat it, it's going to take that satin finish side and make it glossy because it has overheated and just started messing with the finish. So make sure that you do not overheat it. Now our press here consists of just some wood hinges and some holster or sheath foam that you can actually purchase that's made for sheaths. Whenever I originally started doing this, I had a press that was just utilizing the foam for like yoga mats and stuff like that. And every single time you pressed into it, it got more and more and more deformed. This, you can make about as many knife sheaths as you want, and it will still go back to the same exact look right here. Okay, now that we got this nice and pliable, we just want to put it in here, get the sides evened up, make sure we shift that spine all the way over into that little taco area. Get our clamps down. I think that's going to be plenty right there. So now we're just going to let this cool inside here, and that's going to get our nice sheath, you know, to where it really has the shape of the knife in it, and it actually forms around it. But you want to keep it in here until it's all the way cooled down to room temperature. You don't want to pull it out too soon because it'll start trying to go back to its original flat shape while it's still hot. So you want to keep it in here until it cools completely. I'm going to leave it for about 20 minutes and then we'll go from there. Alright, let's see how this looks. There we go. Nice form around here. Both sides. So again, reason why it's called a taco sheath is because it's folded around the blade like a taco. One of the easier ways to do this, plus it requires way less eyelets to actually hold it together. If you do one that has the eyelets all the way around, you're going to use twice as many of these. Plus, this is way sleeker than if you were to do that, because you'd have all this sheath up here. So we're just going to run it across here. We're going to end up running our clip about right here. And I think everything will work out pretty good. But for right now, I need to start drawing out kind of where I want to cut everything out, and then figure out where I want my overlay to be with that basket weave pattern. So that's what we're going to do next. So what I'm going to end up doing is going through here and just drawing the outline of the actual blade. Give myself a little reference point to be able to measure where I want the eyelets to sit. There we go. That's where the blade is. So we want to be able to space this out to where the eyelet has just about as much space on this side of the widest part as it does over here. So we're going to give it about that much space, and we're just going to run this down all the way around the edge. That's going to give us our rough little line for where we're going to be cutting at. Now we can go through and start drawing our full outside sheath design. Now we could leave it just like that. We could end up coming down and doing a little bit different style. At this point you kind of mess with it and do whatever you want. For me, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm not going to run an eyelet all the way down here towards the end. I'm going to start them about right here. So about right here. So what I can do with this is I can bring this piece of the sheath in a little bit. I'm going to kind of change the shape up just a hair. So something kind of like that. Now what I'm going to need to change up again just a little bit is probably this area right here, because we know that we're going to be using our ulti clip here, and it's going to require us to be able to hook up some eyelets right here. Now if we end up doing too much of a curved area right here, it's going to sit kind of weird because it would have to sit at an angle a little bit. I want it to sit just a little bit squarer, like that right there. And actually what will probably end up happening is it will drop down to about right there, because I want my belt to ride even with this. So whenever I clip my belt on, I want the top area to ride even with this little area so that the belt can rest in that valley right there. So we're going to bring that down to about right there, get it decently straight for how I'd want it. Give ourselves a little bit of an idea of where this is going to sit. So about right there. So now we're going to change the outside of our sheath just a little bit more. Come on the outside of that clip just a little bit. So we're coming out. And I'm going to come in and around. Gives us that right there, so that whenever we end up setting up our eyelets, that the sheath ends up coming just a hair around this edge right here, because this is rounded down. If you don't do that, if you don't give it that little bit of extra room, this is going to cant to the side a little bit and wrap around the edge. Instead of sitting on top of it flat, it's going to wrap around and not sit even. So you got to add just a little bit of extra space. That's what we're going to have right there. Now we can go ahead, see where we want our belt to sit, and then go ahead and mark this. With that marked, now we can start spacing out our clips, or our eyelets. We know for a fact that we're going to end up putting one in the center of this and in the center of this. That's going to give us our spacing, which is going to be right at 1 inch. So now we can just go through, measure 1 inch, and start putting our other eyelets, so where everything looks uniform. Now, for me on this bottom corner, I'm gonna have 3 even ones here. I'm gonna end up putting one in the center of this area right here, just so that it looks right. And I probably could put 2 right here. Let's see if that just looks like it's cluttered. Let's do 2, just so that we got a nice tight area up here. So we're gonna do 2. That's about the center right there. For both of those. Alright, so that's where they're going to be. The top of where this meets right here, pretty much dead center of this one, then right in the center of this, and that's where our pin, or our eyelets, are going to go, right there. Let's go ahead, get this cut out, start drilling some holes. And at this point, we can go ahead and take the knife out of it and just leave it like that. So let's get to cutting. So there's our overlay. So now we just gotta let that cool and then start shaping it. Well, let's go ahead and get this assembled. Now, I did end up splitting these into two different pieces because I didn't like how high it came up over this. I wanted it to be just flush with the top of it, just like that. I didn't want that lip to wrap around here. I like it as low profile as possible. But what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be utilizing all of the bolt together hardware. We're not going to do any press together eyelets. It's just a personal preference. I'm just going to do that on this. Now, what we got to figure out is which side we're going to have our clip on. Now, because I'm right-handed and I'm going to be pulling the knife out this way, the clip needs to be towards my body on this side. So we're going to put the clip on this side. Now we got to start off by going ahead and bolting this together, because this is going to be the one that's going to be outside of where that clip is. And I like using the Phillips side on the outside of what faces out because I just think it looks cleaner. But we're going to get it kind of tightened down into place, and then make it to where we can still shift it just a little bit, and we'll snug it down afterwards. Okay, so we got that kind of sort of in its place. Now we can go ahead, put our ulti clip on here, and one of the things that I'm going to do is I am going to put a little rubber bushing behind this. It just helps keep everything stationary. So I'm going to grab one of the, or two of those real quick. They just look like this right here. They're just two little rubber washers, and they're going to go in between. So we're going to put the piece of hardware on here and then smash that little washer on there. Do the second one. And that ends up giving us that little space right there, but that's going to get sucked up a little bit whenever we actually tighten down everything. We're going to put it on there. There we go. Now I could leave this like it is right here, but I really want this to be actually sucked down to where it just stays flush. So I am going to end up gluing this. But before we do that, I got to do a little bit of adjustment on this side right here. Okay, now that we got that adjusted right there, I'm going to go ahead and actually glue these two pieces down with the CA glue right here by Starbond. Now I use this glue for so many different things. You know, I've used them on handle scales and things like that, but I also use this for anything that I was ever going to use super glue for. This is, if y'all remember the old school styles of glues, the ones that were super toxic, hurt your eyes, all that stuff, but they were like the most crazy super glues ever that made everything stick together. Well, you can't get those anymore because they did away with the chemicals that were super toxic and all that. And now all the super glues are, you know, just kind of great glues, not super glues. This stuff right here is super glue. This stuff works like a champ, and I really appreciate this company making all these. They have them that are tinted and all that, but we're going to use this to go ahead and glue this together. Now, if you want some of this, I have a link for this in the description below. Gives you a little discount and everything. But we're going to put that down inside here and start gluing this together. That side. That side. Get it clamped together. Then we're going to take a little bit of acetone and clean off the excess. Alright, so here is our finished product. So we've got our sheath right here with our overlay, that basket weave pattern. I really like how everything is just super sleek. You know, we've got our thumb press right here to be able to pop it out easily. Got our ulti clip on the back side, and it fits on there exactly how it's supposed to, with a little bit of excess on the outside there. It's adjustable on height. But right now I've got it set up to where whenever I'm wearing it on my belt, this area is going to sit perfectly in line right here. So that belt's going to sit perfectly underneath that ledge right there. So it's going to set up, be absolutely perfect. Locks in there nice and tight. No shakes, no wobbles or anything like that. We got our lanyard on here. It's just a paracord lanyard. And this is an actual lanyard that I'm going to use during, you know, the actual use of the knife. You know, you go up, through, then go down on. So do whatever you got to do. You drop it down, grab something if you got to, get it back up there, do whatever you got to do, drop it down, do whatever you got to do, pop it back up. You're going to not lose this out of your hand. So it's not just a decorative lanyard, it's an actual lanyard that you're going to utilize. But I really like how this turned out, and I really like this sheath on here. But I'm interested to see what y'all think about the sheath, because y'all haven't seen me do one in a while. I do make them for each one of my builds, but I know y'all haven't seen one in a while done by me. But there you go. Y'all tell me what y'all think about it. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce the next Shop Talk Tuesday build series. I've been thinking about doing this one for a while, and I know that a lot of y'all have limited access to what you can get steel wise. I mean, you can pretty much order steel from any steel supplier nowadays. It's not that hard, but if you're in an area where it's limited or where shipping's limited or something like that, and you can get your hands on a farrier's rasp like this, we are going to be doing a farrier's rasp build. So it's something that you might easily be able to get your hands on, or let's say you've got one that your grandpa used, or it's a family type thing and you want to be able to utilize it to make kind of an heirloom piece, you can do that. But this is going to be our next one. It's going to be this shape right here, drop point recurve with a real nice shape profile handle on a farrier's rasp. I think this is going to turn out really cool, because whenever you end up grinding all of this, you end up with really cool lines and the triangles and everything like that. So this is going to be the next Shop Talk Tuesday build knife, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm excited about this one. I've wanted to do this for a little while. I've had this profile drawn up for about 6 months now, and it's time to go ahead and knock one of these out. This one's going to be all stock removal. It's not going to be super crazy where you have to have an anvil and a hammer and all of that stuff. We will be annealing the hardness out of it and heat treating it and all that stuff, so you will get to see that process. But that is our next build. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the Sheath, plus what y'all think about the next build series that we're going to be going down with. So there you go. That's the end of this one. If y'all would, give this video a thumbs up, share this video or one of my other videos if you haven't yet. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Guys, thank y'all for coming by. Thank y'all for spending your time with me. Y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there. I'll catch y'all next time.